Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Unfiltered and Unapologetic, the space where we heal in truth, in faith, and with tenderness, without leaving our culture behind. I'm your host, Gil-Soto, born and raised in Lawrence, Massachusetts, raised between Bani and El Cibao, and proudly Dominicana. And today I want to talk to you about something that most people never say out loud. Not money, not ambition, receiving. Because some of us learned how to hold everything before we ever learned how to be held. We became the strong one early, not because we wanted to, but because it was necessary. You watched your parents carry stress they never spoke about. You watched them figure things out with no roadmap. No emotional language, no safety net, and without realizing it, your nervous system made a quiet decision. If I want stability, I have to create it myself. If I want safety, I cannot depend on it. So you became reliable. You became independent. You became the one who figures it out. But nobody talks about what that does to your ability to receive. Because when you're used to holding everything, receiving doesn't feel peaceful. It feels unfamiliar. Sometimes it even feels unsafe. Not logically, but in your body. Your shoulders stay tense even when nothing is wrong. You overthink things even when they're going well. You wait for the shift, the unexpected expense, the disappointment, the moment something proves that ease was temporary. Because survival mode doesn't just end because your circumstances improve. Your nervous system has to learn safety separately. And that's what we're talking about today. Your emotional budget, where your energy has been going, why receiving has felt uncomfortable, and how to finally allow stability without waiting for it to disappear. There's a moment many of us can't pinpoint exactly. It wasn't one event, it was a pattern. You realized quietly that you could not afford to fall apart. Not because someone told you directly, but because you could see it. In the way your mom held stress in her face but kept it moving. In the way nobody talked about fear but everyone felt it. In the way stability always seemed conditional, dependent on work, on sacrifice, on endurance. So you adapted. You became emotionally efficient. You learned how to regulate yourself alone. You stopped expecting support, not because you didn't want it, but because you didn't trust it. You trusted yourself, your ability to think, to anticipate, to prepare, to carry. And people praised you for it. They called you strong, responsible, mature, but strength, when learned in survival mode, comes with a hidden cost. You stop practicing receiving, you stop practicing being supported, you stop practicing letting someone else hold the weight with you. And over time, your nervous system begins to associate safety with control. Not support, control. Control feels predictable. Control feels earned. Control feels safe. Receiving requires something different. It requires letting go of the illusion that everything depends entirely on you. And that can feel terrifying for a nervous system that learned stability through self-reliance. Even now, as an adult, you may notice this in subtle ways. You relax, but not fully. You succeed, but you don't feel settled. You receive, but part of you is already preparing it for leave. You don't celebrate stability, you monitor it. Not because you're negative, because your body remembers instability. Your nervous system isn't reacting to your present. It's protecting you based on your past. And this is why receiving isn't just a mindset shift. It's a nervous system shift. Your body has to learn slowly that you are no longer alone in holding your life together. That stability does not depend entirely on your vigilance. That support does not equal vulnerability. It equals safety. And until your nervous system trusts that, receiving will always feel temporary. Not because it is, but because your body hasn't learned to stay yet. I have a journal prompt here for you guys. When did I first learn that I had to be the strong one? How has that shaped the way I receive support today? And the affirmation for this question is, I am allowed to be supported. I do not have to hold everything alone anymore. One thing people don't talk about enough is how easy it becomes to ignore yourself when you learned early that your needs weren't the priority. Not because your parents didn't love you, but because survival didn't leave room for softness. There was always something more urgent. Bills, work, immigration stress, family back home, emotional tension nobody had the language to explain. So you learned how to keep going even when you were tired. Not just physically, emotionally. You learned how to override yourself. You said yes when you meant no. You stayed calm when you felt overwhelmed. You carried conversations that drained you. You stayed in environments that made your body feel tight. And slowly, exhaustion stopped feeling like a signal. It started feeling like your personality. You became the one who handles things, the one who figures it out, the one who doesn't need much. But your nervous system was keeping score the entire time. Every moment you overrode yourself, every moment you stayed when your body wanted to leave, every moment you gave energy you didn't have. Your nervous system adapted by lowering expectation of rest. Not because you don't deserve rest, because it stopped expecting it. And this is where emotional depletion begins. Not in one dramatic moment, in small moments of abandonment that nobody sees. When you ignore your own signals long enough, your nervous system stops asking. It just survives. And when your nervous system lives in survival, receiving feels unnatural. Because receiving requires openness. Receiving requires presence. Receiving requires a nervous system that believes there is enough. Enough time, enough support, enough stability. But when you're used to depletion, your body stays guarded. Not because you're closed off emotionally, but because you're protecting your remaining energy. You don't fully relax, you conserve, you monitor, you prepare, even when life improves, even when nothing is wrong. Your nervous system doesn't immediately trust peace. It studies it first. This is why emotional exhaustion and financial exhaustion often exist together. Because both come from the same place. A nervous system that learned how to function without feeling safe. I have another journal prompt here for you guys. Where in my life have I been functioning from exhaustion instead of safety? And the affirmation for this question is, I am allowed to exist without constantly overriding my own needs. Imagine your emotional energy the way you imagine money. Every conversation costs something. Every responsibility costs something. Every environment either gives energy or takes it. And when you grow up in survival mode, you learn how to operate in deficit. You learn how to give when you're empty. You learn how to show up when you're overwhelmed. You learn how to survive without feeling resourced. Because survival doesn't ask if you're okay. It asks if you can continue. And you did. You continued, you built a life, you created stability, you became someone your younger self needed. But your nervous system remembers what it took to get there. It remembers the emotional overdraft. It remembers the night you couldn't fully relax. It remembers the pressure you never spoke about. So now, even when stability exists, your body doesn't immediately register it as permanent. It stays alert, not loudly, quietly, in subtle ways. You overthink when things get calm. You feel uneasy when everything is going well. You prepare for problems that haven't happened because your nervous system is trying to prevent future pain, not realizing you're no longer in the same environment. This is what an emotional deficit feels like. Not constant crisis, constant vigilance. Always a small part of you watching, preparing, anticipating, and this vigilance affects your ability to receive because receiving requires your nervous system to believe this can stay, not temporarily, safely. And if your nervous system hasn't experienced safe stability consistently yet, it won't fully relax into it. Not because something is wrong with you, because your body is protecting you based on what it learned. But protection and safety are not the same thing. Protection prepares for loss. Safety allows presence. And your nervous system can learn safety now, slowly, through consistency, through moments where nothing is wrong and nothing leaves, through moments where you realize, I don't have to prepare anymore. I can be here present. I have another journal prompt here for you guys. Do I allow myself to feel safe when things are stable, or do I wait for something to go wrong? And the affirmation for this question is, my nervous system is allowed to trust stability. There's a specific kind of independence that doesn't come from confidence. It comes from necessity. It comes from realizing early that if something was going to get handled, you had to be the one to handle it. You became the problem solver, the planner, the one who didn't wait for rescue. And over time, this created something deeper than independence. It created self-reliance at the nervous system level. Your body learned, I am the source of my stability. Not life, not other people, me. And this is where receiving becomes complicated, because receiving requires letting stability exist outside of your direct control. It requires allowing something to support you, not because you forced it, not because you managed it, but because it exists. And for a nervous system that learned survival through self-reliance, that can feel exposed. Not unsafe in reality, but unfamiliar in the body. This shows up in ways people don't talk about. You keep working even when you don't need to. You stay mentally alert even when things are calm. You have stability, but you don't feel settled inside it yet. You still feel responsible for maintaining it at all times because your nervous system doesn't fully trust stability yet. It trusts vigilance, it trusts effort, it trusts control. Receiving asks you to trust something else. Support, consistency, flow, and this is not weakness. This is expansion. This is your nervous system learning that stability does not always have to be carried alone. That your life can support you too, not just depend on you. I have another journal prompt here for you guys. Do I allow myself to feel supported, or do I feel like everything depends entirely on me? And the affirmation for this question is, I am allowed to be supported. Stability does not have to exist through effort alone. Faith is often described as belief, but faith in practice is nervous system safety. Because you can say you trust life. You can say you trust God. You can say you trust your path. But if your nervous system expects loss, your body stays guarded. Not because your faith is weak, but because your nervous system is trying to protect you from disappointment. If you grew up watching things change quickly, Financially, emotionally, or relationally, your body learned not to fully relax into stability. It learned that things could shift at any moment. So even now, when life improves, part of you stays prepared. Prepared to adjust, prepared to respond, prepared to survive. You don't fully exhale. Not yet. This is why receiving requires more than mindset. It requires nervous system safety. Because manifestation isn't just about attracting something. It's about allowing yourself to keep it. Florence Scovel Shinn said, "You must prepare for the thing you have asked for." But preparation isn't just external. It's internal. Your nervous system has to learn it is safe to exist in stability. Safe to exist without constant anticipation. Safe to exist without waiting for loss. Faith in its deepest form is nervous system regulation. It is allowing yourself to exist without bracing. It is allowing yourself to trust without monitoring. It is allowing yourself to receive without preparing it to leave. This is not denial. This is safety. This is what happens when your nervous system begins to realize, I am no longer in the same conditions I've survived. I am safe now. And safety allows receiving. I have another journal prompt here. Do I allow myself to feel safe in the present, or am I still preparing for past versions of my life? And the affirmation for this question is, I am safe to trust stability. I am safe to receive without fear. One of the hardest things to explain, especially to people who look like they're doing well on the outside, is how your body can still live in places your life has already outgrown. Your environment changed, you grew, you built stability, you created a life your younger self couldn't even imagine. But your nervous system doesn't measure time the way your mind does. It measures safety through repetition, through evidence, through lived experience. So if your body spent years learning that stability was fragile, temporary, or dependent entirely on your effort, it doesn't immediately trust safety just because your circumstances improved. It waits, it observes, it prepares. Not loudly, quietly, in the way your shoulders stay slightly tense, in the way you overthink good things, in the way you hesitate to fully relax into moments of peace, in the way part of you still feels responsible for preventing loss, even when there is no immediate threat. This isn't because you're negative. This isn't because you don't trust yourself. This is because your nervous system adapted to protect you in environments where stability was not guaranteed. Your body learned vigilance as a love, responsibility as safety, control as protection, and those adaptations helped you survive. They helped you build your life, but survival patterns don't automatically disappear when survival is no longer necessary. They stay until your nervous system learns something new, until it experiences stability consistently enough to trust it, until it realizes, I don't have to prepare anymore. I can exist here, I can exist now, and this learning doesn't happen through forcing yourself to relax. It happens through gentle repetition, through moments where nothing is wrong and nothing leaves. Through moments where you realize that stability is not something you have to hold with constant tension. It is something that can hold you too. This is where your nervous system begins to soften. This is when receiving stops feeling like exposure and starts feeling like safety. This is when flow becomes possible. Not forced, not chased, allowed. I have another prompt here for you guys. What would it feel like to believe that my current stability is safe and allowed to stay? And the affirmation for this question is, my nervous system is allowed to release survival patterns that are no longer necessary. If nobody has told you this clearly, I want you to hear it now. You don't have to live the rest of your life in preparation mode. You don't have to keep proving that you can survive. You already did. You survived environments that required strength before softness, responsibility before rest, awareness before safety. But survival was not meant to be in your permanent state. It was a chapter, not your identity, and there is nothing weak about allowing your nervous system to learn something new, to learn support, to learn stability, to learn that peace is not temporary, to learn that you are allowed to exist without constant vigilance. This doesn't mean you stop being capable. This doesn't mean you stop being strong. It means your strength no longer has to come from tension. It can come from safety. It can come from presence. It can come from knowing that your life is no longer something you are barely holding together. It is something that can hold you too. And slowly, your nervous system will begin to understand that. Through repetition, through consistency, through moments where you let yourself exist without bracing. This is how receiving begins. Not all at once, but gently, naturally, and safely. I have the last journal prompt here for you guys. Where in my life am I ready to stop surviving and begin allowing myself to feel safe? And the final affirmation is, it is safe for me to receive stability, support, and peace. I no longer have to carry everything alone. And now let's end with a prayer. So take a deep breath and put your hand on your chest. Dear God, thank you for carrying me in the seasons where I didn't even realize how much I was holding. Thank you for protecting the version of me that had to be strong before I ever learned what safety felt like. Thank you for the strength that helped me survive, and for the softness you are now teaching me to allow. Help my nervous system understand what my mind is still learning, that I am safe now, that I don't have to live in preparation anymore, that I don't have to expect loss just because I've experienced it before. Help my body release the tension it learned when stability wasn't guaranteed. Help me trust the life I've built. Help me trust the support that exists around me. Help me trust that what is meant for me does not require constant fear to maintain. Teach me how to receive without guilt, without fear, without waiting for something to go wrong. Remind me that I am allowed to exist in peace, that I am allowed to rest inside stability, that I am allowed to live without bracing myself for loss. And most importantly, remind me that I was never meant to carry everything alone. Amen. If this episode resonated with you, I want you to sit with it. Not to fix anything tonight, just to notice. To notice where your body still feels like it has to hold everything alone. Awareness is where safety begins. If this helped you put words to something you've been carrying quietly, share this episode with someone who might need it too. You never know who's been surviving in silence. And if you feel called to support yourself more intentionally, my blank journals are available on Amazon. Created as quiet personal spaces where you can hear your own thoughts clearly, without pressure, without structure, and without needing to perform for anyone. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is give yourself somewhere to exist honestly. You can find them linked in the show notes. And if you'd like to support Unfiltered and Unapologetic, you can do so directly through the Buzzsprout support link in the show notes. Your support helps me continue creating these episodes and holding space for these conversations. You can listen to Unfiltered and Unapologetic on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and everywhere podcasts are available. Thank you so much for being here. I don't take your presence lightly. I'll see you in the next episode.